Hey everybody, and once again, this is Straight Jacket White Rabbit. My name's Adam, and I'll be your host. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to continue our discussion from yesterday about inner Earth and skeptics of inner Earth, and just kind of go from there, see where the conversation takes us. One of the places that I wanted to go in the conversation, you guys, I touched on just a few seconds on the last video, was Admiral Byrd's expedition in the Arctic. This is kind of a crucial point that I want to bring up to everyone about the inner Earth. One of many, many stories from around the world in different cultures that talks about an advanced civilization inside of our world. So, 1947, Admiral Richard Byrd in February left on a plane trip, an expedition, doing research and scientific studies. According to his journal, which, like I said, I will leave it up to you whether the journal is real or not. That's not for me to decide for you. But according to this journal, he walks through a lot of really basic information for a good while. I mean, it's pages and pages into the original journal, you guys. And it's all basic, landmass here, temperature drop here, a little bit of turbulence. We had to readjust fuel mixtures. Very routine things like this. Now, I'm going to skip a lot of this, which is hours and hours of him recording on and off just briefly. And he marks the time in his diary or his journal of when he makes each one of these entries. And where I'm going to pick up is where he starts to see mountain ranges that he doesn't recognize. He claims that they're flying towards a set of mountains off in the distance. A while later, he purports that they're now closer, and he doesn't recognize any of these ranges. He doesn't know that they've been mapped before. And he's kind of in awe that he's found some unknown mountain ranges. So the flight continues, and he's seeing some anomalies in the ice. He's seeing what he says appears to be a glowing group of colors in the ice, purples and greens, things like this, just shimmering seemingly from under the ice. As the flight goes on, there's no other word to use but shocked, as he records that they are now seeing a vast green, luscious, forested mountainsides, valley that stretches for as far as his eyes can see. He states that there's no way this should be here. This should all be ice and snow and rock. But there it was, right out of his plane window. He says that he sees big movement, some kind of big animal, and claims to see an elephant. Then upon closer inspection, he says he believes it to be an actual mammoth. He actually tells the flight crew to turn the plane around so he can get a second look with a pair of binoculars through the window. And confirms it in his journal. He says it is a mammoth, and he exclaims it with a big exclamation point and, a shaky hand. You can see that it's written with excitement in the journal. So they're continuing over this grassland, and at some point a bit further, he describes these two ships that come along each side of his plane, and he's being told that he's going to be taken in for a landing in about 7 minutes, and to relax and remain calm. And they call him by name. They knew who he was. They specifically, not the pilot, they didn't call to the pilot. They specifically addressed Admiral Byrd. Now, that to me would say either they knew he was coming on this flight, on this specific path, or that they were some kind of a psychic or empath or someone who had the ability of telepathy. Now, he claims that these advanced ships had no wings, no propulsion systems that he could see that were visible. They were disc-shaped craft with what he claims in his journal is a swastika-like symbol. Now, this is somewhat important, you guys, for the lore of this for a lot of reasons, and I'll get into that here in a minute. No, I'm not saying they were Nazis, okay? And neither was Admiral Byrd. At the time, you have to remember, this is 1947, you guys. Nazis are kind of a big thing. So when he sees something that resembles the swastika, that's what he calls it. He says it resembles a swastika, the marking on each of these craft. Now, I also want to point out that Nazis were not the only one to use this symbol that resembles a swastika. Okay, there's symbols that resemble this throughout human history. And that's one of the things archaeologists have been very adamant about, is there is a form of a swastika in almost every written language, you guys. It's really weird, but it is what it is. Now, is it an actual swastika? No. Okay. Is it a Tibetan good luck charm? We don't know. But this marking was on their plane. Now, he said it was similar to it, and a lot of people believe that it was because it was askew. But he doesn't actually say why it's similar. He doesn't go into much detail about how it's similar. He just says it's similar to a swastika. So these planes take his craft, and I mean take his craft, as in his pilot has no control over the airplane any longer. He and his pilot say that the plane is just simply pulled along in the direction they want it to go. Same with when the plane begins to descend. So the plane begins to descend, and they can feel it kind of just like an elevator almost being taken down. Now, as the plane lands, these group of tall, blonde, unusual-looking people, humanoid people, approach him and once again address him by name and tell him that, he's not going to be harmed, to keep calm, and that they wished for him to have words with the master. Once again, this is going to be an important part, like the swastika thing, okay? He's taken to a chamber where one of these beings, who seems in his general eyes to be more time withered. He has more appearance of age, but he still doesn't look very, very old. He just looks older than the others. And by now, by the way, he's already purported in his diary that everything else from the point where they were bringing the plane in on was from memory, because obviously he wasn't writing this down as he was down into their world. Now, he describes the buildings in this place, by the way, as huge crystalline buildings, made of crystal, basically, or something that appears to be crystal-like in nature. He says there's vibrant lights and crafts that seem to defy gravity without any means of propulsion, including the platform that took him to see the master, which was just a large square platform that didn't seem to ever have any real means of propulsion, yet it did move. Now, the master tells him basically that he has been brought down here because they know of him, and they know that he is respected by the people in our society, and they want to give him a message. And the message, you guys, was one that echoes in UFO and similar UFO, stories similar to UFO encounters with beings, it's a very similar theme of stop messing up your planet, quit using nuclear weapons, quit killing each other. You're starting to get to the point where this is now a tipping point for your species, and we're not going to stop you from destroying yourselves. During this conversation, the master does tell Richard Byrd that at the point where we are, if we choose to destroy ourselves, that he and his kind will be there when we re-emerge looking for the remnants of our past that will be annihilated, according to the Master. He said that we will be there to bring back your past to those who survive this cataclysmic event that we're going to cause. He says, we have stayed out of your affairs for many, many years and only interceded when necessary. But when you started to use nuclear weapons, you set your species on a path for destruction, basically. Sorry about that. You set your species on a path for destruction. And he was told that he was basically being sent back up to warn mankind, to warn his leaders, that if we didn't change our ways, that basically we were doomed. And according to legend, they basically escorted him back up to the surface world, which is what they called it, according to Admiral Byrd, the surface world, and even escorted quite a few miles away from the entrance to their world. Now, I'm going to stop it right there, and I want to bring up a few things. Number one, you guys, for those of you who aren't big on history, I'm kind of a big history buff. I love it. Hitler, you guys. Hitler had a huge interest in the occult, in the supernatural, and yes, in UFOs. Hitler believed that they were genetically related to the master race. Not that they were the master race, that they were genetic descendants of a master race. A lot of people believe that Hitler had found one of these entrances to inner Earth and was removed by said creatures or entities or humans or whatever you want to call them, ancients. I've heard them called a lot of different things. And basically told not to come back. Now, the use of the swastika, you guys, one of the reasons they said that Hitler used the swastika was because in his search for the master race, or according to Byrd's story, the master's race, he was the leader, the master's race. Not really a huge jump to get there. But Hitler believed that if he could obtain the technology from these people he believed that his people were descendants from, that he could rule the world. Now, the master had told Admiral Byrd that this was not the first time they had spoken to people on the surface world. They had claimed he claimed that they had spoken to world leaders. Could one of these world leaders be Hitler? Was he spoken to about the problems of our planet? And in doing so, did they unknowingly set him on a course that was basically hell-bent on discovering where exactly they were and how to claim or recreate their technology? A lot of people believe that the Nazi Bell was an attempt at one of these flying machines that he saw when he communicated with the master, just like Admiral Byrd did. And So a lot of people believe that there is a connection on why he was so obsessed with certain imagery and certain beliefs of a higher connection to a better species, the master race or the master's race. Like I said, I believe that Hitler was contacted by this race. I believe many world leaders were. And I believe he took it to the extreme of, well, we're descendant from them because look how superior they are. And he felt superior. He felt like the German people, the pure German people, were superior. Now, obviously, we all know that's a crock. People are people, and we're obviously not those people because they were highly advanced and obviously had skills like telepathy and other things. Or at least on a much wider scale than humanity seems to currently have. Now, there's, like I said, there's lore all around the world of this specific type of being. Not just there's talk of a lot of beings that live inside the planet, you guys. But there's one common myth everywhere, which are these supernatural, and by supernatural I don't mean spirit, you guys, I mean above natural or beyond normal. There are these supernatural beings or these very advanced society that lives underground, or a more knowledgeable race of beings that live underground. This is a theme that you literally find everywhere on Earth. And I don't know why that we are so quick as a species to blow this off as, oh, well, it's just, it's in human nature to, fantasize about these things. Just like, they give a lot of bogus reasons why people come up with things like, oh, well, you only see a UFO in this picture because your eyes are trying to search for something they can explain it. Yes, I'm aware that we do that with clouds and stuff, you guys. No, it's not the same thing when you're talking about somebody visiting an underground civilization in great detail. And of course the governments aren't going to come forward if they're being told to knock off their shenanigans. I mean, you guys, where's the money in that? Our entire world is based off of an economic system and money. Okay? It really is as simple as that. And especially in a world where we're a very violent species, we're not going to give up our nukes as long as anyone else has nukes. And every other country feels the same way that has nuclear weapons. And even the countries who don't have nuclear weapons are going, I want nuclear weapons to protect myself from all these other places. We're a warlike people. And a lot of people will not evolve past this. They're very territorial humans as a species, you guys. We are. But the thing is this message, like I said, this is not the first time that people have been given this message. Look at the children who saw an image of a woman. A lot of people credit it to be the Virgin Mary. I'm not saying it was or wasn't. I don't want to upset anyone who has particular views on it. But a lot of people believe that it was the Virgin Mary that those three children saw in the vision in South America, and that she was warning them to stop using nuclear weapons and harming the planet and them and each other. That sounds a lot like the message, the exact message Admiral Byrd was given, and according to the Master, that all the world leaders they contacted were given. Stop messing up your planet. Quit using nuclear weapons. Quit destroying each other, or you're going down a road of darkness that you will not recover from for a vast amount of time, if you recover from it at all. This seems to be almost an ongoing theme around the world, that these visitors from above and below are telling us to quit messing up our planet. But here's the thing. Why are we blocking off all these tunnel systems that lead deep into the earth? Why are a lot of these cave accesses and things being shut and sealed? Are they trying to stop them from coming out? and warning us or stopping us from being what we are in our human nature, which is violent? Or are they trying to keep us, from going down there and spreading our violence to people that are more advanced than us, trying to basically stop us from, ticking off someone who could choose to just stomp us out? All accounts say that there seemed to have been a peaceful civilization, though, but they talked about us to Admiral Byrd with almost an indifference. Your species this, and if your species falls, or if your species goes extinct. It was a very set and cold way to say this. So I just wanted to touch a little bit more on these topics. What do you guys in the chat think about this? Do you think Admiral Byrd's journal is a real thing? Do you think it was something that was forged? Do you believe, the Hopi were also just mistaken about creatures living underground? And these weren't just creatures. Like I said, even in the Hopi legend, these were advanced creatures with technology. It wasn't just some weird ant mutation that took them into an ant colony down under Earth. It was a technological place that these people took them. And a lot of people say that the Hopi called them the ant people because of how they looked. But if you look at some of the descriptions of aliens, like the mantis aliens, I could see where someone might call them ant people, especially in the facial construction of some of these beings. So are all of these nations of people, these tribes of people, these military people, were all of them wrong? Going back to Hitler, why was Hitler so interested in Antarctica? No one wants to make a base on a giant frozen block of ice and rock. That's stupid. The temperatures that were down there from just where the Arctic scientists are right now, you guys, it's so unbelievably cold that it's almost just overwhelmingly difficult to do anything once you're out of where it's heated. So why set up a vast military base in an area like that unless you knew something else was there? Unless you knew about the green, vast forests and mountainsides and valleys that Byrd had supposedly found? Unless you were looking for something like an ancient people who had spoken to you and given you a warning about the way we were treating each other in the world and the usage of nuclear weapons and things of this nature. I firmly believe that the Nazis were interested in Antarctica because they knew about the master. They knew about that entire race of people. They were contacted just like the U.S. and other leaders around the world were contacted. They were contacted. They were told to stop. They were told the consequences if they don't stop. And they were probably told something similar to Admiral Byrd, like, we're not going to stop you from destroying yourselves. Heed our warning now, or it's on you. These are all the messages that we get from every one of these stories, oral traditions, Native American traditions. They all have a very similar storyline, which is, you guys are messing up your planet. It's not going to end well for you. And yeah, we might help you afterward, but we're not going to save you from yourselves. I believe that our government are holding these types of secrets from us strictly for monetary gain. And it's not just money, no. So strictly monetary gain would be the wrong way to say this. Largely for monetary gain. The other thing is just simply power. The people in power on Earth right now don't want to give up their power. That's how power tends to work. You've heard of power corrupts and then absolute power corrupts absolutely. People in the positions of power don't want to give up their positions of power, and that's why we have wars and famine and all this other stuff. If we would learn, I've said it from the get-go, you guys, if we would learn to get along as a species, think about the accomplishments we as human beings could achieve. We have been able to achieve so much as a species. But unfortunately, because of stupid errors, we've been wiped out. We've been reset. We've lost technology. We've lost who we really are. We've lost our history. Large, vast chunks of our history we've lost. So yeah, when I look at all the myths and the legends and the stories and the journals that depict these advanced beings coming out from inside of our Earth, I tend to believe that there is something there. Whether or not it's a mixture of all these things, or all these things might be the same creatures or subsets of different creatures, I don't know. Now, obviously, the description of the ant people is vastly different from the description of the Nordic-looking beings. That's another one I want to get into here in a second. Obviously, there are vast differences. And like I said, I believe Sasquatch live in underground systems as well. That's another vastly different looking being. But that doesn't mean that they're not all underground. They're not all in their own underground subterranean cities, worlds, whatever you want to call them. The inside of our planet is huge, you guys. There's room for plenty of different species to have made a home there. Now, going back for a second to what I was just talking about the Nordics, you guys, following the UFO topic, Nordics are a very, very big species of UFO and aliens. I'm sorry, not UFOs. Of aliens that we've supposedly met and dealt with, the Nordics. And they're described to the letter like what Admiral Byrd's journal describes them as. Now, they don't specifically call them the Nordics in Admiral Byrd's journal, but the description, you cannot deny that it is anything but the Nordics or someone very similar. The advanced technology and flying saucers, the humanoid appearance with the long blonde hair and the blue eyes. These are the Nordic people, the Nordic aliens, extraterrestrials, extra-dimensional beings, wherever they came from. This appears to be them. So were they always from Earth? They do have certain distinctions, I'll say, than other humans do in their complexion and the way their skin seems to look and feel. Pores and hair and such like that. There are small differences. Did they just evolve that way because they've been subterranean now so long on our planet? Or did they evolve that way wherever they're from? And they've just made a home here on our planet for a vast amount of time. Maybe we can't even call it our planet. Maybe this is their planet. And we're just kind of renting the upstairs, you know what I mean? So yes, I do believe in a hollow earth theory. I do believe that there are vast systems inside our world that we have yet to explore. I believe that some point in our future, we will discover these vast city complexes and mythic creatures, or creatures we believe to be extinct, or cryptids, or whatever you want to call them, extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional beings. I do believe that is entirely a very valid possibility. But as I started the first video saying, there's a lot of skeptics that talk about this stuff, you guys, but they're not looking at it through the lens of eons of culture. I mean, since the dawn of man, we've talked about people living below us, underneath us, in the earth. There have been stories about subterranean complexes of humans and beings and aliens and monsters and devils and gods that live inside our earth. So I would say yes, on the scale of, complete BS or has some kind of a factual basis, I'm leaning towards has some kind of a factual basis, you guys. Just like the giants that a lot of people believe retreated into the earth instead of facing the wrath of being petrified and basically hunted down and destroyed, there are myths about the giants retreating into the earth as well. But we shouldn't blatantly disregard a subject just because we cannot prove it scientifically right this minute for everyone to see. And even if we could, maybe we just don't. Science evolves all the time, like I said in the last video, you guys. We come up with new concepts and theories that make outdated theories exactly that, outdated. They're no longer believed in because we've proven them wrong. Or we've proven there's a loophole around said law of physics. And that's what scientists need to get back to today. There's too many scientists who, oh no, this is a fact. It's not a fact, it's your opinion. It's a fact when you can prove that it's not there. You can't just state, what happened to scientific curiosity? We seem to have killed the human spirit of exploration because of it, you guys. You have explorers on Earth now talking about there's nowhere left to explore. There's tons of places left to explore. We don't even know. You guys, we haven't even mapped the entirety of the Amazon jungle. How ridiculous is it for us to say there's nothing left to explore? Have we explored all of our oceans? No. Not even 10%, okay? Have we explored all of the cave systems in the world? Not even close. So you're going to tell me that there's no physical way that any of these things could exist inside our world? I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. So whether you're a skeptic or a believer, the ball's really in your court. Do the research, read the stories, read the first-hand accounts, talk to people. See if you feel like they're being truthful or not, and then come up with your own decision on what you believe. But let's not let the naysayers and the skeptics bring us down, insult us, call us things like delusional. I have friends who take that from the paranormal world because they're paranormal investigators, and a lot of people don't believe in that. It's the same thing, you guys. You can't say in 100% certainty that you know whether or not this is or isn't until it's a fact. And a fact goes one way or the other, but either way it requires one thing, which is proof. So keep an open mind, you guys. If you've liked what you've seen, do me a favor and hit that like button for me. It really helps me out on the YouTube algorithm, you guys. And as usual, I will see you guys next time on Straight Jacket White Rabbit. I love you all. Have a good night.